Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the official English channel, and we're excited to spend some time with you again. I'm Sophia.
And I'm John. Always good to be here, Sophia. How are you feeling today?
Doing really well. It's been a busy morning, but I'm happy to sit down and talk with you and all our learners. How about you?
I'm in a great mood. Any day we get to help people improve their English feels like a win. And today's topic is pretty important, right?
Definitely. We're going to talk about a question almost everyone hears sooner or later. Tell me about yourself. It sounds simple, but it can feel uncomfortable if you don't know what to say.
And that happens in so many situations. A new class, a job interview, a friendly conversation. People freeze up because they're not sure where to begin.
Exactly. That's why we're here. We want to give you the confidence to answer this question clearly and naturally. So whenever someone asks you about yourself, you won't feel nervous. You'll know exactly how to respond.
Before we dive in, make sure you like this episode, subscribe to the official English channel, and share it with anyone who's also working on their English. It really helps.
Yes, thank you for supporting the channel. Now, John, when someone asks, "Tell me about yourself," where do you think beginners should start?
I usually suggest a simple three-part approach. Talk about your present, then your past, and then your future. It keeps your answer organized, especially in formal situations.
Right. That structure works well for classrooms, meetings, interviews, or any time you need a clear introduction. Present, past, future. Easy to remember.
So let's break it down. For the present, just say who you are and what you do. Something like, "My name is John and I work in education."
Clear and simple. Then your past, a short background. Not your entire life story, just one or two details that help people understand where you're coming from.
Something like, "Before this, I studied communication," or "I used to work in customer service."
And then your future, your goals or what you're hoping to do next. It shows direction. People love hearing that you have a plan.
Exactly. It doesn't need to be complicated. "I want to grow in my career." "I want to improve my skills." Or, "I'm excited to learn more about this field."
When you put all three together, it forms a complete picture. It sounds professional and confident, even if your English level isn't advanced.
But for beginners, sometimes even that feels too long. What should they do?
For beginners, I always recommend going even simpler. Keep it short and comfortable. Your name, where you're from, and one thing you enjoy doing. That's enough to introduce yourself without feeling overwhelmed.
Something like, "I'm John. I'm from Chicago. I like reading." Short, but it works.
Or, "I'm Sophia. I'm from a small town. I like walking every evening." If you're shy or new to speaking English, starting small is totally okay.
People often think they need to share everything, but they don't. You want to keep it manageable, especially when you're still building confidence.
Exactly. And smiling helps too. It shows you're open and friendly, even if your introduction is simple.
Now, the tricky part, job interviews. That's usually where people feel the most pressure.
Yes, and it's usually the first question they ask. But the key is remembering that this question in a job interview is not about your whole life. It's about why you fit the role.
So you want to mention skills and experience connected directly to the job. The interviewer should immediately understand why you're a strong candidate.
Let's say the position requires good communication. You might say something like, "I have strong communication skills, and in my last job, I helped customers solve problems every day."
Perfect. Or if the role involves technology, you could say, "I'm experienced with computers, and I've used different software in my previous positions."
Short, focused, and related to the job. Think of it like a small preview of what you bring to the company.
And please don't list everything you've ever done. Keep it tight and relevant. Interviewers hear this question hundreds of times.
Exactly. You want your answer to be clean, confident, and connected to what they're looking for.
But not every introduction happens in a formal environment. What about meeting new people casually?
That's another type of introduction altogether. When you're talking to someone at a party, a class, or a social event, you want to sound friendly, relaxed, and open.
You can talk about hobbies, interests, or what you enjoy doing in your free time. It makes the conversation feel natural.
For example, you might say, I'm Sophia, I love trying new recipes, or I'm John, I play guitar when I can.
And it really helps if you follow it with a question. What about you? Or how about you? That invites the other person to share and keeps the conversation flowing.
Yes, that's a great habit. Sharing a little and then asking a little makes people feel comfortable. It creates an instant connection.
Something like, I love hiking. Do you have any favorite outdoor activities? Smooth and friendly.
Now, John, many people feel shy when talking about themselves, especially in a language they're still learning. What advice would you give them?
First, practice is everything. You don't have to memorize a speech, but say your introduction out loud several times. Your tongue needs to get used to the words.
And you can start very small. Even saying 1 or 2 sentences every day helps. You build confidence step by step.
And don't be afraid of mistakes. Everyone makes them, including native speakers. What matters is speaking, not perfection.
That's so true. People usually appreciate the effort. Most listeners are kind and patient, especially when they know you're learning.
So, be gentle with yourself. Progress takes time, but it does come.
Let's go back to that present, past, future structure. It's a really strong tool for creating a complete introduction, especially in more formal settings.
Agreed. If someone wants an example, we can show what a natural version sounds like.
Let me try one. I'm Sophia, and I teach English. I studied linguistics in college and worked with young learners for a few years. Now I'm focused on helping people around the world communicate more confidently.
That flows really well. It's concise, but it still paints a clear picture of who you are.
Now you try one.
All right. I'm John. I work in education and specialize in language training. Before this, I spent several years working in community programs. In the future, I hope to create more resources that make English easier for everyone to learn.
That's smooth and professional. Anyone listening would understand your background and your goals.
And the best part is that anyone can create their own version with just a little practice.
Some people also like to add a small, interesting detail about themselves to make the introduction more memorable.
Yes, sharing one fun fact can make you stand out. It gives people something to talk about.
It doesn't need to be dramatic. Something like, I collect postcards, or I once visited a town with only 200 people.
Or I love fixing old radios. Or I bake bread every weekend. Small details make you more relatable.
And they can spark conversations. People might ask you more about it, which helps keep the interaction going.
Now let's talk about mistakes to avoid. Because even small mistakes can make your introduction less effective.
First mistake, talking too long. People lose interest if your introduction becomes a long story. Keep it focused.
Second mistake, not preparing at all. Even a few minutes of practice helps you sound more confident and organized.
Third mistake, sounding negative. Saying bad things about yourself or your experience creates the wrong tone.
Fourth mistake, sharing too much personal information. Keep things appropriate, especially when talking to strangers.
And fifth mistake, forgetting to adapt your answer depending on who's asking. Your introduction for a friend should not sound like a job interview.
Adjusting based on the situation is one of the best communication skills you can develop.
Listening to real examples can help our learners understand the rhythm of natural English. So let's give them a few models they can follow. Nothing too long, just enough to show how everyday introductions work.
Good idea. If someone asked me to introduce myself casually, I might say something like, I'm John. I teach English and enjoy exploring different neighborhoods on weekends. It's short, but it feels genuine.
And for a slightly different tone, I might say, I'm Sophia. I work in language education, and I love spending time outdoors whenever I can. That works well when you want to sound friendly, but still a little formal.
If the situation is more professional, I could say, my name is John. I've been working in education for several years, focusing on communication skills and student development. It sounds polished, but still natural.
Exactly. And for something more informal, you could say, I'm Sophia. I'm a big fan of trying new foods, especially anything spicy. That kind of detail helps people remember you.
Those examples show how you can adjust your tone without changing the basic structure. It gives our listeners flexibility no matter the situation.
A lot of learners ask how we personally introduce ourselves, especially how our English journey began. Maybe we should share a bit of our own stories to give them some inspiration.
Sure, go ahead. I'd like to hear yours again too. It's always motivating.
Well, when I first started learning English, I could barely form a full sentence. I was nervous about mispronouncing even simple words. I remember introducing myself with just, "My name is Sophia. I am a student." That was all I could manage at the time.
And now you speak with so much confidence. That's a big transformation.
Thank you. It happened slowly. I spent a lot of time listening to English songs and watching short videos. I repeated phrases until they felt natural. Bit by bit, I learned to express more of myself. Now, when someone asks me to introduce myself, I usually say something like, "I'm Sophia, and I'm passionate about teaching and helping learners communicate clearly." Outside of teaching, I enjoy painting and long walks because they help me relax.
That's a great introduction. It feels warm and genuine, and it shows how much effort you've put into learning. Anyone listening can hear your passion.
I appreciate that. And your story is just as inspiring. You've been helping learners for years now.
It's funny because when I first started studying languages, I struggled too. I understood grammar rules, but speaking out loud made me nervous. I would plan sentences in my head and then forget them as soon as someone looked at me. But the more I practiced, the easier it became. Now, if someone asks me to introduce myself, I usually say, "I'm John, and I work in education. I'm dedicated to creating materials that make language learning simple. When I'm not working, I enjoy cooking and watching classic films."
Such a clear, confident introduction. It shows your personality without being too long. A good example for our listeners.
Thank you. I think it's important for learners to hear that even teachers weren't perfect when they started. Everyone begins from somewhere.
Exactly. And if you keep practicing, you'll get better, just like we did. The hard part is taking the first step, especially if you're shy.
So true. A lot of learners feel self-conscious, but once they realize people aren't judging them, everything becomes easier. Most people are just happy you're making an effort.
And the more you speak, the more natural it feels. That's why practicing introductions is such a good exercise. It's short, useful, and something you can repeat often.
It also helps you prepare for real conversations. When you meet someone new, you won't freeze or feel stuck. You'll already have an idea of what to say.
Now, before we wrap things up, let's create a few more sample introductions for different situations. That way, our listeners have a variety to practice with.
Good idea. I'll start with a simple one for beginners. I'm John. I'm from the United States, and I like reading in my free time.
And here's another beginner-friendly example. I'm Sophia. I'm from a small town, and I enjoy cooking on weekends.
For intermediate level introductions, you might say something like, "I'm John. I work in education, and I enjoy learning about different cultures. Before teaching, I studied communications in college."
And another intermediate example could be, I'm Sophia. I teach English and love creating helpful content for learners. I studied linguistics and later worked with young learners, which helped shape my teaching style. I'm currently focusing on producing accessible English lessons for an international audience.
Now, for advanced learners, we can model a more complete introduction. I'm John. I specialize in developing practical language learning materials. I started my career in community programs where I assisted adults improving their communication skills. Now I focus on creating resources for global learners, and I'm excited to continue growing in this field.
And here's one more advanced example. I'm Sophia. I've been working in language education for several years, exploring different approaches to helping people become confident speakers. I studied linguistics and later worked with young learners, which helped shape my teaching style. I'm currently focusing on producing accessible English lessons for an international audience.
Those examples should give our listeners a strong idea of how to shape their own introductions. Different levels, different settings, different tones.
And they can mix and match. Take a sentence from one example, an idea from another, and build something that feels natural to them.
Before we end, let's give one last reminder. Practice is the most important part. Even a perfect introduction won't help if you never say it out loud.
Exactly. Try speaking in front of a mirror, recording yourself, or practicing with a friend. The more you do it, the more confident you'll become.
And confidence grows quietly, almost without you noticing. One day, you suddenly realize that introducing yourself doesn't feel scary anymore. It becomes something you can do naturally, almost without thinking about each word.
That's the moment learners should be aiming for. Not perfection, but comfort. When the words come out smoothly enough that you can focus on the person you're talking to instead of worrying about every detail.
And the more you practice introductions, the more open you become to real conversations. After all, most conversations begin with just a few simple sentences about who you are.
Exactly. A good introduction is like opening a door. Once it's open, new friendships, new opportunities, and new experiences can follow. And learning how to talk about yourself clearly helps you feel more prepared for those moments.
That's why we always encourage our listeners to practice these skills, even if they don't expect to use them immediately. You never know when you'll meet someone new or need to speak up in a meeting, a classroom, or even a job interview.
And a strong introduction makes a positive impression. People tend to remember someone who speaks clearly and confidently, even if the message is simple.
Before we close, let's offer one more practical exercise that our listeners can try after this episode. Something they can do every day in just a few minutes.
Here's one idea. Create 3 versions of your introduction: a short one, a medium one, and a longer one. Practice each version out loud. That way, you're ready for any situation.
That's a great exercise. Another option is to record yourself speaking. Listen back to hear how you sound. You might notice things like pacing or pronunciation that you want to improve.
And don't be discouraged if your voice sounds different to you. Everyone feels that way when they hear their voice recorded. What matters is progress, not perfection.
You could also try practicing with a friend who is learning English too. Exchange introductions. Give each other simple feedback. It can be fun and very helpful.
Or if you prefer practicing alone, write your introduction down first, then say it out loud, then close your eyes and try to say it again without looking. That helps you remember the flow naturally.
And always focus on clarity. A slow, clear introduction is much better than a fast, unclear one. Take your time. There's no need to rush.
Exactly. Listeners should remember that speaking slowly is not a sign of weakness. It shows control and confidence. Even native speakers slow down when they want to sound thoughtful and clear.
One final tip for our learners. Smile when you introduce yourself. Even if you're nervous, a small smile makes your voice sound warmer, and people notice that. It creates a friendly atmosphere right away.
Absolutely. A smile changes everything. It helps you feel a little more relaxed, too. Even if you're practicing alone, it makes your voice feel brighter.
At this point, I think our listeners have everything they need to start practicing. They have examples, exercises, tips, and techniques. The rest is up to them.
And we believe they can do it. Anyone can learn to introduce themselves confidently with the right practice. It's a small step that leads to big progress in English communication.
Now, before we finish, let's remind everyone to keep exploring English every day. Practice doesn't have to be long or difficult. Just a few minutes can make a huge difference over time.
Yes, listening to short conversations, reading simple stories, or speaking a few sentences out loud can all help. The important part is consistency.
And that's why we make these lessons. We want to give learners tools they can use right away. Practical, simple, and real.
Exactly! And we hope today's conversation helps our listeners feel more ready to talk about themselves the next time someone asks. Now, before we go, let's give our final reminders. If you haven't subscribed to the official English channel yet, we'd love to have you join our community. It helps us reach more learners and create more helpful lessons.
And liking this episode tells us that you enjoyed it and want more content like this. It really supports the channel.
Sharing the episode with someone who's learning English can help them too. Maybe a friend, a classmate, or someone at work who's trying to improve.
And in the comments, we'd love for you to share one fun fact about yourself. It doesn't have to be big, just something simple and interesting that helps us get to know you better.
Reading your comments is one of our favorite parts of making these lessons. It helps us connect with all of you and understand what topics you want to learn next.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We hope you keep practicing, keep learning, and keep believing in your progress.
And we'll see you in the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Have a wonderful day.